Welcome back to my channel. Today's case is from 2018 and is about a woman who killed her husband after years of systemic abuse. She is known as the rolling pin killer, and this took place in the UK. Just to warn you, this case involves horrific domestic abuse. I will be showing clips from the police interviews, but there are no photographs of the injuries. If this isn't something you want to hear, then you are welcome to leave. There are other videos on my channel that you may be interested in. Hannegret Donnelly, 56, was born in Germany, and trained as a midwife before coming to the UK to work. Christopher Donnelly, 55, was a highly educated man. Having graduated from university with a biochemistry degree, he later went on to teach music and completed higher qualifications at a London Academy for Music. He was a professional clarinet player and saxophonist. Hannegret met Christopher around 1992, and they got married shortly after and had been together for 23 years. They purchased a home in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, and had 4 children. At the time of Christopher's death, the children were aged between 13 and 21. Hannegret had given up work when her first child was born, and became a stay-at-home mum, and Christopher stopped working in 2015. They were quite an old-fashioned family. They were strict Christians and believed in preparing for end times. Gradually over many years, Hannegret began to take complete control of the household, and she was the dominant force. Hannegret did not want her children to be influenced by the outside world, and she did not like the modern education system, and as a result she decided to homeschool their children. She also did not like modern technology. None of them had mobile phones, and their landline had been disconnected several years ago. This is probably the reason why neither Christopher or the children could get help for their father. The family lived a somewhat isolated life, and around 2014, their contact with other members of their extended families completely stopped. Because they did not go to school and were not allowed to go out on their own, none of the children had any friends. The family were not often seen by neighbors, and when they did leave the house, usually all 6 of them would go together. It was clear that Hannegret had complete control over the household, and every aspect of their lives. It is said that Christopher and the children were terrified of her, and she ran the home through threats and beatings. Hannegret started physically abusing Christopher, over at least a 10-year period. On an almost daily basis she would hit him over the head with a rolling pin, or with any other object she could find, so badly that she didn't even stop when Christopher was bleeding. She had hit him around the head so many times that his ears became deformed. She would strangle him, choke him, punch him in the throat, which damaged his voice box and he began losing his voice. She had pushed him down the stairs several times. She had pushed him over in other rooms in the house, and he had sustained a large amount of injuries from falling into objects. She repeatedly punched him in the face, causing damage to his nose. In fact, he was battered all over his body. All 4 of the children had to witness what she was doing to their father. He became so frail and ill that he was no longer able to walk, and relied on Hannegret for simple tasks such as going to the toilet. She used this as another way to control him, by not allowing him to go even when he was begging to. She would simply lock him in the bedroom. When he became ill, she refused to get him any medical help, and Christopher had to suffer. She resented him and was completely detached from any emotion. At a time when he was physically dependent and needed her help, the abuse got worse. He would get beaten if he didn't answer a question quick enough, or she didn't like what he was saying. Christopher was so badly treated that he started to suffer mentally also. Hannegret believed that what she was doing was normal, and she even kept a diary of all the horrific attacks she had inflicted upon Christopher. Nobody knew what went on in Hannegret's household since they were completely isolated from the outside world. After years of abuse, this would all come to an abrupt end. The morning of the 31st of March 2018, Hannegret Donnelly went to a neighbor's house to phone 999. She told him that her husband Christopher had died the previous evening, after becoming unwell. The operator asked her if she had tried CPR, and she told him it didn't work. Paramedics were sent, and when they arrived, they discovered Christopher lying dead on the bathroom floor. The paramedics noticed that Christopher's body was covered in cuts, bruises and scars in varying stages of healing. Hannegret told him that he had been dead for 12 hours before she contacted them. All 4 of the children had seen their father dead. Paramedics later told police that this death was suspicious and should be investigated further. When the police arrived, they began taking a look around the house, and they found blood spatters across the doors, walls, furniture and ceilings in every room in the house, and also across the blind in the bathroom where Christopher's body was found. Forensic investigators attended the scene, and took samples and confirmed that it was Christopher's blood. The blood pattern analysis of the splatters was indicative of repeated beatings with a blunt weapon. When police asked her what had happened, she made a flippant remark that she had hit him over the head with a rolling pin a few weeks before his death. Police were very concerned about this comment, and asked Hannegret to go to the police station with them, which she did quite willingly. Christopher's body was sent for a post-mortem examination, and pathologists determined that Christopher had died from bronchopneumonia, and not as a result of brain injuries inflicted by the rolling pin. His body had been subjected to repeated episodes of blunt force trauma. Christopher's body had a total of 78 external injuries, in addition to several neck and spine fractures. There was also evidence of injuries to the larynx which were caused by compression of his neck, consistent with being partially strangled several times over the weeks before his death. The fractures to the spine and the scar tissue indicated that they were inflicted when Christopher was in a defensive position, probably curled up and with his back to Hannegret. The skull showed evidence of chronic remodeling, as a result of repeated trauma. The pathologist stated this showed that he had been hit over the head on several times within a few days before his death. Christopher's ears showed the appearance of what is known as cauliflower ears, typically seen in rugby players and boxers. In basic terms, this means that the cartilage of the ears was shattered from repeat trauma over several months. The pathologist stated that he had never seen a case in his whole career involving so many injuries over such a long period of time. He concluded that all the injuries and old scars that were visible were inflicted over a 2-year period. A medical examiner said that Christopher's body was so badly weakened from years of abuse, that it ultimately contributed to his early death. His body and his immune system was so weakened that his body simply could not cope anymore. This is why pneumonia led to his death. He also added that pneumonia has lots of symptoms, and because the brain is starved of oxygen and the person may become confused and dizzy, which is probably the trance Hannegret tells police about. Before the police left the scene, they went to speak to some of the neighbors. One neighbor told him that the last time she had seen Christopher was in January 2018, and he looked frail and very ill. She added that he looked more like a man in his 80s. They also found out that the family had attended Kew Gardens 10 days before Christopher died, and so police checked CCTV to find out what sort of physical condition Christopher was in, and this revealed that he was in obvious frailty and physical decline. When police asked Hannegret why she waited 12 hours to report Christopher's death, she told them that they were trying to come to terms with it as a family. Hannegret gave police many stories to justify what she had done. Firstly, she told him that there was something strange in the house that was affecting both hers and Christopher's health. She was examined by a police doctor and it was established there were no signs of illness or injury to Hannegret. She said that Christopher was stuck in a time warp, reminiscing about his youth, and that he would descend into terrible moods. She said that she had to hit him with the rolling pin harder each time to get him out of it. She said this was banter and light-hearted, and even suggested that Christopher welcomed the beatings, and that they did not really affect him in any way. She thinks that her behavior is normal, and that she has done nothing wrong. She shows no empathy at all. Here are the chilling police tapes of her interview.